At the beginning of the story, Sister Hildegard is traveling in a cart. At that time, the armed group, led by Weston, forced the cart to stop. Sister Hildegard told the evil leader about God's commandments and asked him for help. Sister Hildegard told her not to touch anything in her cart. Weston's man declared it a disaster, expressing disbelief in God, rejecting Sister Hildegard's pleas for help, and then leaving. Weston works for a tough leader named Shaw, and they've been together since Weston's childhood. Therefore, Weston lived under Shaw's wing for a long time. The thing is, Shaw in his own image. He fashioned Weston after a kind of copy of himself, and his big idea was for Weston to lead his gang after Shaw left. But guess what? Weston was completely absent from that life. He is the simple, ordinary person of most people, dreaming of a normal life. But Shaw didn't let Weston off the hook. He always reminds Weston about how he saved his life when he was younger, and Weston feels like he owes him big time. It was a heavy burden for Weston. Either way, enough is enough because it's time for Weston to leave his past behind and start anew. Weston told his friend Emmett that he was going to take the shares without informing Shaw, leave, and start a new life. Emmett replied that Shaw would kill Weston. However, the next morning, Weston's plan hits a major roadblock when Emmett betrays him and reveals Weston's escape plan to Shaw. He catches Weston in the act and is not in the mood to play nice. Shaw is really mean and hurts Weston quite a bit. To make matters worse, Shaw left him stranded in the desert and basically arranged for him to die outside. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Sister Hildegard stumbles upon Weston in this dire situation. Despite the violent history between them, Sister Hildegard really decides to be a good Samaritan. She rescues Weston from his desert plight. Perhaps Weston had very mixed feelings. Surprised, embarrassingly, perhaps, the man he had once tried to hurt was now saving him. But Sister Hildegard has plans of her own. She has this mission. I decided to take him. At first, Weston wasn't too keen on hooking up with the nun he almost tried to take down, but let's be honest. He's not in the best shape. Therefore, I accepted. As Weston spends more time with Sister Hildegard, they both start realizing that they've been judging each other too quickly. They open up and share their thoughts, and suddenly, they're not so different after all. But there's this one big question bugging Weston. He can't figure out why Sister Hildegard chose to be a nun when she could have had a happy life doing other stuff. It's like a puzzle in his mind. Then, in a heart-to-heart talk, Sister Hildegard tells Weston about her painful past and this awful marriage she had. Her ex-husband was a real brute, and under the influence of alcohol, he did the unthinkable. He killed their two lovely daughters. It's a story that cuts deep. Weston steps out for a moment, and guess what? Shaw's gang finds Sister Hildegard, and they launch an attack on her. This is where things get intense, and Weston sees this as an opportunity to hide and wait things out. As the night sets in, he goes all tough guy and takes on Shaw's men, even though he's injured. Weston manages to fight them off, one by one. However, one person is left standing, Claire, Shaw's best shooter. Instead of shooting them, Claire decides to turn around and leave, so he takes a bold step and attacks Shaw. But this leads to an all-out shootout, and it ends up as a one-on-one fight between Shaw and Weston. Unfortunately, Sister Hildegard is stuck right in the middle of it all. Sister Hildegard tries to stop the violence and get Shaw to calm down, but her efforts go in vain. Shaw ends up shooting her, and the same bullet hits Weston in the arm. However, Weston seizes the opportunity and shoots Shaw, finally putting an end to his monstrous reign. In his last words, Shaw tries to fool him by saying he's proud of Weston, but Weston knows it's just a lie. In the film's closing moments, Weston holds Sister Hildegard as she passes away, buries their bodies on a clifftop, and sets out to fulfill Sister Hildegard's unfinished tasks.